Carowinds has tons of insane coasters like this one that's over 200 feet tall, or this one that's known around the world as one of the greatest coasters of all time. And then there's this one that's literally designed to punch you in the nuts. Today, me and my friend are going to be testing the craziest, the wildest, and the worst roller coasters at Carowinds, starting with Copperhead Strike, which actually has really good reviews, like this one from Taylor. I love this ride. I've ridden it so many times, I've lost count. 5 stars. The coaster starts with a wild launch out of this barn-looking thing into a loop that held me upside down for scarily long, which was followed by a hill that threw me out of my seat, a corkscrew, and another launch with a little hump in it that threw us into an upside-down stall and loop combo that held us upside down for even longer. The craziest part of the ride wasn't any of that though. It's actually this super slow roll right out of the station, which was one of the craziest things I've ever experienced on a coaster. And I ride a lot of coasters. My friend, on the other hand, doesn't ride a lot of coasters.
So it's gonna be interesting to see from like enthusiast versus non-enthusiast standpoint. I like that coaster because it had a bunch of hang time bogus going on. 4 stars.
Out of what?
5. But
I'll also give it 4 because go zoom and lots of loops and twists. Adrenaline.
Fair enough.
And that was just the first of the crazy rides we're gonna test today, like a 300-foot tall coaster, one of the world's worst coasters, and whatever this is. But first, we're riding one of the world's most intense roller coasters, Afterburn. This coaster is massive, has some insane looking loops, and if that wasn't crazy enough, you ride underneath the track, cause why not? Jacob says, way too intense. My legs were numb during this ride. There's no way this ride is allowed to operate with how intense it is. Yikes. The coaster starts with one of the craziest views of all time, a parking lot. I didn't get to soak it in for very long though, cause we were yoinked to the side and plummeted down a massive drop and into a loop so powerful, I lost vision. That's followed by a small turn into another huge loop that leads into a super snappy roll and an insane batwing through a tunnel that felt like it was gonna rip my legs off. That's followed by a few turns over the station and paths until out of nowhere we whipped through a corkscrew, a violent turn, and into the brakes. Yeah, that review was accurate.
That was good.
That was good. I really like all the corkscrews and all the like turny upside down bits.
Yeah,
5 out of 5.
Dang, really? I'm gonna give it 4 stars. Hey, vroom. Vroom, vroom.
Afterburn was crazy, but it wasn't even close to as huge as the next coaster, Thunder Striker. Thunder Striker? Seriously? They couldn't come up with a better name than Thunder Striker? What does that even mean? How do you strike thunder? It's lightning that strikes. Thunder's the noise! Terrible name aside, this is an insane coaster. It's 233 feet tall and has nearly a mile of track, so it's gonna be crazy. Dane says, "No fear, ride the front car, not at all. Taste the sweet nectar of death." 5 stars. Of course, we hopped in the front car. The coaster started with yet another beautiful parking lot view. Brings a tear to my eye. Of course, I didn't get to see it for too long because we dropped down over 200 feet before rising up into a turn that threw me out of my seat. After that, we were right next to Parking Lot My Beloved as we went through back-to-back hills that all levitated me up and out of my seat. And after a quick turnaround, we were back to even more back-to-back hills. They were all super fun, though half the hills had brakes on them for some reason, which kinda sucked. Speaking of brakes, after one final hill, we hit some brakes, which completely killed the coaster's momentum, though it didn't really matter because after a little drop and a little twist, we hit the final brakes. It was a great ride, but I didn't taste the nectar of death like Dane said I would. Maybe I will when we ride Fury 325, which is one of the tallest and fastest roller coasters in the whole world. We still got a ton to ride before we get to that point though. We never ended up giving Thunder Striker a rank because we were way too distracted by this stinking thing. If you didn't know, this is called a sky coaster, and it's one of the most terrifying rides in the world. It's basically a big ol' swing, except it's like 150 feet tall, you go like 60 miles an hour, and if that wasn't crazy enough, you do the whole thing facing straight down.
I've never done one, I'm nervous.
I haven't either, but I'm not nervous.
It's safe to say I was more than nervous.
Dude, are you sure this is safe?
If it wasn't safe, we wouldn't let you ride.
Dude, I don't want to do this, man. I'm scared, dude.
But I spent way too much money to chicken out, so we suited up, got flipped over, and started climbing. Oh boy did we climb. We kept going and going.
Oh my god, we're high. Look up, Sam. No. Look up, Sam.
Finally, it was time to pull the ripcord and fly.
Do it.
This was insane. I've never done anything like it in my life. It was like being able to fly like Superman or something. Unfortunately, it didn't last too long because we had to grab this yellow loop thing, which ended the ride.
Okay, so that was fun. I wasn't scared at all. I took that like a man. I'm gonna throw up.
He's afraid of water
Over water? Dude, I'm afraid of water.
and screamed like a
You can't say that, man.
That was really fun, but it might be the last fun we have for a while because we're entering the bad side of the park, home to some of the roughest, most boring, and downright painful roller coasters in the entire world, like Nighthawk. Elena says, 1 star, I waited 4 times in one day and never got to ride. The line is painfully slow and constantly being shut down for maintenance. And yeah, that's pretty much what happened to us. We walked up, waited like 3 minutes, and then were told that the ride was broken down. It never opened back up. Anyways, next up is Vortex. This is a stand-up coaster, which means you ride it standing up. These were popular back in the day, but everyone hates them now because they really hurt, and this one is known as the world's worst. Reviews say it's rough, bumpy, slams your head around, and if you're a dude, well...
Are you ready to lose your ability to have children? Yes, let's go.
Yeah, if you didn't know, on these stand-up coasters, you gotta ride on this bicycle seat looking thing, and if you've ever ridden a bike before, you know the pain that comes from these seats. Imagine that, but going at like 50 miles an hour. That's Vortex. The coaster starts with a pretty boring curve drop into a kinda lame loop, which was followed by a little twist over the lift into a low-to-the-ground helix that killed my legs. They were killed even more by the corkscrew twist wombo combo that followed, though thankfully by the final turn, the coaster had lost most of its speed, so it didn't hurt that bad. I swear to God though, if we were going any faster, my knees were gonna give out.
Okay, so that wasn't as bad as I thought it was gonna be. It's still a 2-star coaster though. I have this giant bug bite on my leg that every time we'd bottom out, it would hold on, it would hurt really bad. And also my nuts hurt.
I'll give it a 3. On the plus side, I can still have children.
How do you know?
Now from there we could have walked down this path and ridden Fury 325, which is literally the 4th tallest and fastest roller coaster in the world. But we decided to save the best for last, so it's onward to even more terrible coasters, like this one that has the potential to be the worst coaster in the park. It's named Flying Cobras, and it's a model of coaster that's infamous for being pure torture. Like, there are dozens of these coasters around the world, and all of them suck, specifically because they're really rough and have restraints that are rock hard and positioned just right to hit your ears, meaning riding it's gonna feel like going through a round of boxing with Mike Tyson. Which is why walking up, I thought we were gonna end up like this guy who said the ride gave him a headache. Shockingly though, when we were about to climb on, I noticed that the restraints weren't the famous bad restraints, but instead some sort of vest. I was saved. That said, we still have to worry about ending up like Nathan, who said, this ride gave me motion sickness. This is the only roller coaster that has ever done this, and it nearly ruined my entire trip. The coaster starts with a super slow lift backwards until out of nowhere we dropped and went barreling through the station into a wombo combo back-to-back roll known as a Cobra roll. It was not very smooth, but thankfully the vests made it not terrible. Then after going through a loop, we climbed up another lift, which, after breaking our backs, dropped us backwards. The loop in reverse was super trippy, and the Cobra roll was still really painful.
I was expecting it to be way worse than it was. I've ridden some of those that rattle me bones, and that one didn't. 2.5 stars. I'll give it a mid.
I'll give it a 3. It was a little rougher, but it had some pretty good comfy restraints on it.
Okay, now we're gonna go get some food.
We got a burger and some fries to share.
You would not believe how long it took to get an edible burger. By that I mean one without cheese.
He doesn't like cheese.
Cheese is gross.
This is horribly bland.
Don't listen to him. The food was great. Once we were done eating, we decided to let our food settle. I mean, nobody wants to ride Hurler right after eating. We ended up going on Carolina Gold Rusher, the park's family mine train. But Munch Jun Un said, don't really like it, it's too slow, which is great because we want something relaxing. Though more concerning is what Bear said. I'm 6'1", and it sliced my leg open. I'm 6'1". Oh no, maybe riding this wasn't the best idea. Nonetheless, I hopped on, and we were off. The coaster starts by spending literally 30 seconds meandering its way over to the first lift. And while we were on that lift, I had an idea.
We gotta do a hearty hee-haw on all the drops.
Deal.
And hey, look at that, it's the first drop, meaning... Yeah, that was less of a drop and more of a turn.
So anticlimactic.
There's another drop later though, so it can redeem itself. Before that though, the coaster jankily twisted its way through the trees into a half tunnel, or as I like to call it, a funnel, and finally started climbing to the coaster's second and biggest drop. We were climbing for ages, so we were prepared for a massive drop.
Yeah. What a thrilling drop.
Well, okay then. But at least after that, there was a fun but super janky helix.
I feel if I lift my arms, I'll get decapitated.
And another tunnel. Let's go. But it ends.
Oh, dang it, no.
And is followed by a brutal stop.
I'll give it like a high 2 out of 5.
I'm gonna give it a no leg room out of 5 because there was stinking no leg room.
There really wasn't. I didn't get sliced open like that review said, but god dang, I barely fit. I'd say our food's settled by now, so let's go over and ride Ricochet. Oh god. So Ricochet is a wild mouse, which is one of the world's most popular types of coasters. It's also my least favorite model of coaster. But hey, maybe this one's good. I mean, it's got 4 stars on Google, though some of those reviews aren't that promising. Like what Emma said, not worth it. It hurts so bad and isn't fun. 1 star. But at least Chase, a self-proclaimed wild mouse specialist, found the ride to be adequate for a wild mouse, so maybe it won't be that bad. No, it was really bad. It starts with the famous wild mouse turns, back-to-back violent turns that jam you into the side of the train. Really stankin' hurt.
Oh, I'm gonna pull a vein.
And make it feel like the car is gonna fall off the rails. These turns are normally the worst part of the ride, but here they were just the beginning.
This hurts so bad.
After the final violent turn, the ride takes a wide turn before jolting to the side and going down some gloriously painless straight track. The pain comes right back though, with some hard brakes, more painful turns,
Even the slow turns hurt.
a weirdly painful drop, more painful turns, and just so much more pain.
Nothing about this is fun. I thought coasters were supposed to be fun. I'm gonna give it 1 star. Everything about it hurt. Going straight hurt, stopping hurt, dropping hurt, turning hurt. Did you just run into the post? Don't ride it.
Half a star.
That ride was terrible, but according to reviews, the next coaster, Carolina Cyclone, is somehow even worse. Chris says, I have been on 188 coasters and counting. This is amongst the most painful, but even more worrying is what Bobby said. Undoubtedly, the worst roller coaster I have ever ridden. The over-the-shoulder harness is a terrible design, banging your head from side to side and violently shaking you. It was so bad. My partner was injured as it pulled his neck. Skip this ride, it can ruin your whole day. Honestly though, the reviews kinda make sense. See, this is a super old coaster that was made back in 1980, before coasters were designed on computers, meaning this thing was basically built by hand, so it's gonna have some jank, but hopefully not that much jank, right?
Oh my god, ow!
Well, we're gonna go find out.
By the way, if you've been enjoying the video so far, subscribe.
The coaster starts with a kinda mid-drop into a wombo combo of super janky loops. These things stank and hurt, but not nearly as bad as the absurd transition into the corkscrew.
Oh my god, ow!
Seriously, what is that? What were they thinking? Thankfully, the helix after the corkscrew wasn't too janky. It was kind of fun, but it was also the end of the ride.
Pain.
2 out of 5.
Yeah, 2 out of 5.
At this point, we were nearly to Fury 325. We only needed to make it through one more coaster, and we could finally ride it. Unfortunately, that last coaster is Hurler. Hurler? Seriously? Why would you name your coaster Hurler? Awful name aside, this is the single worst reviewed coaster in the park, and those reviews are terrifying. Landon says, horrible, diabolical, rough, boring, painful ride. Would not recommend to even my worst enemies. But even scarier than that is what Brittany said. Do not ride this ride. I am currently suffering a neck injury from this ride in July 2023. I'll probably never ride another roller coaster after this.
I don't look forward to this one. I've heard it sucks.
The ride starts with a bumpy drop into a super bumpy but kind of fun turn, which was followed by back-to-back camelbacks. These all kind of lifted me out of my seat, so they were a little fun, but they were just so rough. I thought the rest of the coaster was gonna be just as bad, but it wasn't. It was worse. The turn after the camelbacks was smooth, but the hill and turn after were dreadful. But the worst part by far was the ending turn. It was so rough that we were literally bouncing out of our seats.
So on the drop, I let out a hearty hee-haw because I expected it to be like riding a bull. which is a certifiably yeehaw activity, but it wasn't actually that bad. I'm gonna give it 2.5.
The beginning and middle were pretty good. They were pretty smooth. The seat was nice and padded, so it was comfy. The end got kind of rough though. I give it a 3.
Finally, it was time to take on the big boy, Fury 325. This monster is 320 feet tall, goes 95 miles per hour, has over a mile of track, and is known around the world as one of the greatest roller coasters of all time. It has won the Golden Ticket Award for the best steel coaster in the world 8 times, and the reviews back that up. Best coaster ever. Best in the park, hands down. Best coaster ever for everything of all the thing. But I'm here to bring that to the test. Is it actually that good? Honestly, I doubt it, especially because of this review. Really disappointed. Not the world's best coaster, not even the best coaster in the park. And you might be wondering, who left that review? And why is it so important that you're willing to ignore like 10,000 5-star reviews? I left that review. See, I've actually been to Carowinds before, back when I was but a wee lad. And while I don't remember much from the experience, I remember one thing very clearly. I was brutally disappointed by Fury 325. I was promised the world's best coaster, and it wasn't even better than Copperhead Strike. So while we ascended the 325-foot lift, I was worried. But was I about to be disappointed again? I spent all day hyping this coaster up. And what if it's not that good? What if it's worse than Copperhead Strike? But as we crested the first drop, I knew I had nothing to worry about. This was gonna be a stankin' amazing coaster. The first drop was insane. We were out of our seats for like 3 straight seconds, and the amount of speed we built up, it was like nothing could stop us. We blazed through a high turn, a low turn, a turn over the park's entrance, and into the famous Trouble Clef, which threw us out of our seats as we dived through a tunnel. As we emerged on the other side, we blasted into a high turn, and then got thrown out of our seat by one of the wildest hills ever. That was followed by a big turn that felt like it was gonna take my head off, and then with one final hill, we finally hit the brakes. It was like a greatest hits tour of the best parts of the best rides in the park. It had the twists of Copperhead Strike, the intensity of Afterburn, the back-to-back hills of Thunder Striker, and the tunnels of Carolina Gold Rusher. It was perfect. By the end of the ride, only one phrase came to our minds.
5 stars. 5 stars.
5 stars.
Easy.
But walking out, having finally tested every coaster at Carowinds, I started to think maybe the best part of the day wasn't riding the rides. It was the memories I made along the way with a friend that I haven't seen in a very long time. Nah, I'm just kidding. It was definitely the rides. And if you want to see more, you should check out this video. Those rides are insane.